I particularly want to address this video to the birth coach, whoever you are. So this is really what your concern is, that something's going to happen and that you're not going to be able to deal with it. There's going to be a problem, that there are risks, that things happen. We all know there's no way to know what the birth's going to be like. So from us as birthing women, we're in it. And us as people who are birth coaching or around a woman birthing, we're outside it and we see it. So this video is about reminding you about something that most of us really aren't aware of. There are two elements, and always has been, about birth, and two elements that the medical profession tried to deal with. One element is the smaller, and one element is the bigger. The bigger element is that throughout time women suffered in childbirth. That did not mean there was a problem. It meant that throughout time, almost no culture in the world had good breathing or relaxation skills. Most of them didn't know how to prepare the body. Why would they? They don't know there's a cervix. How would they? Why would they? There are cultures around the world that don't know that sex is connected to conception. Why would they? You don't show for 3 months or more. Why would you know that? So women didn't cope. Every culture has a health system that tells women in pregnancy and after the birth what they should or shouldn't do. But usually at birth, whatever happens, happens. If your labor is really fast and intense, a lot of women think they're going to die. If it's really slow and drags on for days, they hope they're going to die. And that's suffering. Suffering is directly related to a lack of skills or a lack of applying skills. That's good news for you, which means that your job is to see and hear whether a woman is coping or not. Now, the trick is that a woman who's quiet, you don't know what she's thinking, so you don't know whether she's coping or not. But if she's quiet and she looks as though she's in control, then just let her be, because she is in control, whether she likes it or not. I birth very quickly. I'm one of those people that think, I'm going to die, right? Every time I have a contraction, it's like, fuck, 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 fuck. But I cope well. I use my skills. It's really, really important. So how do you know when to help a woman? It's by what she looks like and sounds like. So listen to the birth journey in this course and become accustomed to hearing and seeing. And that's when you help right away. Because if you go under the assumption that we're told by the natural birth movements, oh, women should behave any way they want. However a woman wants to behave in labor is fine. You know, if she wants to get in that position or sound like that, that's fine. That's nonsense, right? Because women don't want to feel out of control. And women who are having progressive contractions and don't have skills instinctively and intentionally get into positions that back off their labor because it's too painful. They don't know how to cope. And so they end up in labor for hours and hours and hours. Women do not know how to birth instinctively. They just birth. And they do many things in births that are counter to birthing effectively and getting their baby out. We have to stop believing that we as women know how to do this well or right, and that normal means good or good outcome. So as a person outside this, you need to see and hear. So if she looks like she's coping, she sounds like she's coping, and in an instant she stops looking like that, step in right away. Because if you let her go under the assumption is, oh, she knows what she's doing, she's going to get down that path and it's going to be harder to get her to get back into control. So it's really important. So coping was the biggest factor in what modern medicine decided to deal with. That's called pain relief. Still a big factor. Why do women use epidurals? They don't want to suffer. They like skills. Simple as that. That's a major part of what the modern medical profession has done, is to give women pain relief. No problem. Suffering. No problem. The next are the potential risks. Low-risk women in their pregnancy can have very high-risk births, so can their baby. Women with multiple risks who come into pregnancy with multiple problems may just cruise through pregnancy and birth. We don't know. But if there are risks and issues, you need to understand that there is no general what if there's a problem. If you're not pregnant with twins, you don't have a twin problem. If you're not pregnant with breech babies, you don't have a breech problem. Right? If you don't have, I don't know, anything, Rh negative, you don't have an Rh negative problem. Your problem is only related to you. So if at the last birth you bled after the birth, you might bleed after this birth. That's an issue. It potentially is a risk, potentially becomes a problem. When Birthing Better Families started all of this, there's only a 4.5% cesarean rate. 95% of us labored. And now you know what that meant. That meant whether we had risks or not, whether it was easy, whether it was hard, whether it took place in hours or days, whether we had good outcomes or bad outcomes, whether we suffered or didn't. It was all normal and natural. Risks weren't we as consumers had not yet been able to demand of the modern medical profession that we reduce the risks. Why do we have antibiotics and immunizations? It's not because the medical profession is going around trying to impose these things like some people say. It's because we don't want our children dying of measles or whooping cough or polio. I grew up in the polio period, right? And I got polio from the vaccine. So I'm a quasi about vaccines. But if I feel that I'm going to put my family at risk on ideology, then I better back it up with being skilled. So the second thing is issues that become risks, that become problems. The woman who is birthing, it's dependent on her to tell you whether she thinks everything's okay, particularly if there are identified risks. If she thinks things aren't okay and you're going to have a home birth, she needs to know whether she needs to go to the hospital. I can't tell you how many women I know from stories. I've listened to tens and thousands of birth stories of women who ideologically wanted a home birth. They so ideologically they wanted it that even when things were apparently having a problem, they stayed at home. And when that problem really became a problem after the birth, they regretted their decisions. You don't want to do that. Every decision you make, you want to be able to live with in 6 months, 18 months, 10 years from now. It is no different than getting into a car and driving. You have to drive carefully, particularly if you have children in the car, because if you do foolish things or put yourself in harm's way, you have to live with the repercussions of that. So when you're looking at birth, first you want to cut down on the suffering, become skilled so you cope. Then what you want to do is figure out what risks you have coming into this home birth, what risks you might develop, and then you want to prepare your body in a way that by having an efficient birth, having an open body that opens easily for this baby, that you can reduce or prevent the risks from becoming problems. And we know we were medically high risk. So we know that when we can get our baby out more efficiently and not have long first and second stages, that our baby and our bodies are safeguarded. We still can have really weird challenges, and some really fast births ended up with tragic outcomes. However, by and large, when we were skilled, we were empowered through the birth as it unfolded for us.